the tower. Every core computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Okay, I think that's good enough. Hello. Hey, Snowtwig, how's it going? Good evening. Good afternoon. Good timeline, whatever time it is. I don't know, I guess because the weather is getting colder, my allergy, or my sinuses are acting up a little more, but how are you doing? Good to see you. I completely forgot about Orktober. I'm not sure how much you follow the mini painting scene, if at all, but, October is kind of colloquially called Orktober for Warhammer fans and the like. And that is because around this time, there's a theme of like painting orcs for October, you know, Orktober. Feeling eepy? Yeah, tell me about it. I worked 2 shifts over the weekend, and they were some of the busiest shifts I've ever worked at Best Buy. And so my brain is a little bit cooked right now. Yep. Okay, so starting soon can go away because I am no longer starting soon. Did you ever see the completed mini that the starting soon image is referencing? Because I don't think I've shown. I finished it on stream, I think, but I don't know if you were here to see it. One moment, I need to blow my nose. I sneezed and now I'm all sounding like this. Okay, well, fantastic. I actually brought it back downstairs because I wanted to do some touch-ups on it before I submitted it for Community Day. Because, thank you. Between that mini and the one I'm about to work on and the rats, I really haven't done a whole lot. Because the only time I've really had to paint is when I stream. But yeah, let's go ahead and turn that off. Palette camera, main camera, and we should be good to go. So the mini that is being painted tonight, which I'm going to try and get as much done as I can because I basically have 2 days to do it, is this lad. So this is a Station Forge mini. This isn't even actually, we don't need the palette camera. This isn't a Games Workshop mini. This is the original mini that it's supposed to be referencing is a beast boss on a Squigosaur in 40K, but Station Forge has made their own version of these guys called the Orcas, and Orkaz, and I posted art of, or like the promo art of him in the Discord, but this is what I'm going to be painting today. Yeah, it's a really neat model. Squigs in 40k are kind of like evil Kirby's without any arms and, fangs. And they kind of diverge from that to make them a little bit different. And I think it's cool because it's very clearly orky. And the boss is very clearly an orky looking boss. So I'm going to see what I can do with him tonight. I think I'm going to go ahead and do something similar to one of the paint schemes I saw of the 40k model, where they painted him to look kind of like a great white shark. So he's going to have probably a white like underbelly, and then it's going to kind of transition up towards a gray. And for the plating, I think I'm just going to do like an armored black. And he's got all these metal bits, which will be really fun and easy to paint because I'm probably just going to knock them back down to black and then dry brush them. And then, I've got this cool looking orc dude. So I figured tonight I was going to airbrush the entire thing in like a gray neutral color and keep the black as the shade. And then start hitting the, all of it with like grays and blacks and whatnot. So I suppose we'll see. But I'm very excited to paint this guy because I don't paint a whole lot of Station Forge. I like their models. I've been a Patreon subscriber for years now, and I just don't really have the time to print and paint a lot of their stuff. So every time I do, it's kind of a nice little privilege. I did an orc model of theirs not too long ago, and it turned out really good. So I'm kind of excited to see how this one will turn out. And like when they first started releasing these guys, I did some orc infantry that honestly I had less fun with, but I feel like as they've continued with this Patreon, they've gotten consistently better with their sculpting. So I'm gonna see how this one turns out, and if it turns out good, I might go ahead and do an army base around it, because they have all of the models I would need to do a good proper like 1,000-point army of Beast Snagga Boys, which is what they're called, of that style. So they'd at least be visually consistent. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm using this Apple Barrel Pewter Gray, which is just kind of a really cheap gray that I got from a big box store. And I think I'm gonna add just the slightest amount of this deep blue, because I want him to have kind of a blue undertone. And I'm not quite sure how. Actually, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to do the gray, and then if I need to, or when I need to, I can do some very light blue undertones on him. So we'll see how this turns out. Adding some airbrush thinner, and then some flow improver, because unfortunately, Apple Barrel paints are kind of crap, but they're decent for doing, gross work like this stuff. So other than being eepy, how have you been? I haven't really seen much of you guys recently because I'm only streaming like once a week now, and it never feels like enough. And I obviously haven't had time to get on any other streams. Because I did notice a little while ago that you were streaming, and I almost hopped on, but then I like immediately needed to go do something else. So unfortunately, I've just been incredibly busy due to my current job. It's left me with little free time. So hopefully, as I kind of work my way up the ladder a bit and start making a little more money, I can stop doing the one job I'm doing and have a little bit more time on my hands. Okay, so a little bit of a spray test. Let's go ahead and spray the gray on and hope it turns out okay. And already, it's looking pretty good, because I've watered down the gray enough that I can actually kind of control how it's hitting the model. So I think I'm going to even do the undercarriage gray, and that way I can kind of build back up the blue. I really like, I don't know how well you can see it, but they've just got like these gross metallic bits sticking out everywhere, like They've just embedded machinery in this poor thing. Yeah, there's just, I'm gonna go ahead and give that a really angry look at some point. So something that I've had to learn that's I found honestly pretty difficult actually is like controlling exactly how much pressure I'm putting on the airbrush, because that really does determine how good your coverage is and how good your accuracy is with the spray. So I will say I'm pretty impressed with this gray actually, because every other color I've used by Apple Barrel has been really weak. But the gray is going on pretty well, and it's getting decent coverage. Yeah, color me surprised. This isn't bad. But yeah, I don't plan on going too hard with some of these colors. Just enough to show that the lad's supposed to have like a gray underbelly. Okay, what else can I do here? I was expecting to need a lot more of this because I was expecting it to be a lot thinner. But as it turns out, it's not that bad. Something else that I did, and I was pretty happy about, was I bought some UV resin. And I had seen from a Ninjon video that the UV resin is something you can really use to kind of seal gaps in the Mini. And you can actually see where I did it, that the gaps are a little more natural, like on the tail. On this side especially, you almost can't see where the tail separates. And on this side, the seam is nowhere near as noticeable as it otherwise was. So I think using that UV resin is going to become the new way that I seal off resin minis that don't quite fit together as well as they should. And yeah, I needed remarkably little of this stuff to actually prime this guy. That's pretty cool. So I'm just going to empty this out. And I think I can probably do it from right here, as opposed to getting up and changing out the brush and changing everything out. See if I can get that thing. Wow. That worked remarkably better than I thought it would. Normally I have to get up and make a whole rigmarole of cleaning out the airbrush, but I guess because it was thinned down properly, it just squirted back out. Okay. Beautiful. Cool. Hey, Red, how's it going? How are you doing? I'm painting, this is supposed to be a proxy of a beast boss on a Squigosaur. And, it's from Station Forge, and I think it's pretty darn neat. So, I'm kind of excited to see how this thing's gonna turn out. I originally hit him just now with a gray from Apple Barrel. And I was going to hit him with a blue. I think I still am, but like because of the black underneath, he ended up turning actually a pretty cool color. Been busy painting? What kind of stuff have you been painting? Let's go ahead. We're going to mix up some deep blue, and I'm actually going to go ahead and hit his shadows one more time. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to paint myself, so the only thing I've really gotten done is my Horus Ascended. And I've worked a little bit on an Imperial Fist Captain that I kind of wanted to repaint. And I did that speed painting bit with the Skaven, and they all turned out pretty good. But they're nowhere near done. I still need to, you know, base them and whatnot. I know that you've got like 3 or 4 armies that you've been working on concurrently. But it's been a while since you've last updated me on those. How are they coming along? Okay, let's see. Apologies for not much being on screen right now. I'm trying to dig out the dried paint on the inside of this paint tube, because it's being kind of... This has always been my problem with Scale 75, is that even though they do have an incredibly wonderful blend, it does tend to dry really badly. And then I have a hard time kind of dislodging the dry paint and getting it to a point where I can actually use it again. Hopefully I can do that. Let's see how well this thins, because I haven't used scale 75 very much with airbrush thinner. See if I can get this thing thinned down. I heard a beep on Discord, so I'm assuming that you posted on the Discord. So I suppose in a few moments I'm going to see myself what you've been busy painting. Last I saw, weren't you painting those fantasy models for friends? Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Ooh, very nice. Looks like Shiny Mew Paints has also been painting. Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull some of these up. I won't be able to look at them for very long because I do have airbrush paint in the pot right now. Got some Fantasy Dwarves. Gosh, Fantasy Dwarves are so cool. Go ahead and get all these up so I can get them. You got it looks like a rogue. And of course a cool dwarf. So let's see, window capture. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Yeah, that dwarf looks amazing. Did a really good job with that one. I love how that thing looks. I love the white hair too. I think the braiding on there looks really good. And the base. Got this great looking assassin. Is that from... it almost looks like a Hero Forge mini, but it doesn't quite have the same proportions as one. Let me see. You've got the fantastic looking copters, which I don't know the names of because I haven't played as the dwarves in Fantasy, but I love how their designs are. I love how chunky and stumpy they are. You got this dwarf infantry, which, again, the shape language of is beautiful. Paint job is fantastic. That really makes them pop. And you got this really cool fantasy model. I love the work that you did on this thing. Face looks really good and stern. I think faces can make or break a model, and when they don't look great, you know, it's a D&D from Etsy, fair enough. And when you don't quite nail the faces, you can really tell. But in that one, you really nailed the face. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can hit this thing without causing too much of a problem now. Oh no. There we go. There we go. Okay. Oh, that's really good. I like that. I don't like... I'm taking a little bit of umbrage. Did it already get jammed? I hope not. There we go. It just takes a second to get going. Perfect. Okay, yeah, I haven't used Scale 75's paint very much, so I'm definitely struggling a little bit with how their paint goes through the airbrush, just from lack of familiarity. But this is definitely neat, because I know they use a different medium than, say, Vallejo, for example. So, trying to make sure that I'm not overdoing it is definitely a bit difficult. But I do kind of like how it's looking. It does look like it's trying to create like a very faded blue undertone, which is what I'm looking for. Okay. See if maybe that'll work. There we go. And you can kind of see it's going on, tried something different by adding ochre to the shading. It looks really good. There we go. I'm really worried about like pulling back too much on the needle with this thing and just exploding it with blue paint. But it looks like so far everything's kind of going okay. So I think that'll do it for the blue. And then the last thing I'm going to do is add a decent amount of white on this thing. And we'll see how that looks. I'm really just spitballing right now because I came into this not knowing exactly how I wanted the model to look. And I think originally I was going to go for a warmer brown, but my brain just went to a cool blue for like no reason whatsoever, so I suppose that's where we're going with it. Okay. And I found out that I can actually do a half-decent job cleaning the airbrush out without moving, so that'll definitely cut down on some cleaning time. Okay. There we go. Oh no, it's still okay. Yeah, I see. Still stuck on the needle. Okay. Keep cleaning that up. Nope. Okay. Nope. I gotta get up for this one. I'll be right back. It's definitely still being yucky. Why am I fighting so much? Okay, I think that did it. I think I got most of the blue out of that, because the last thing I'm going to do is go for a white. So we're going to see how that works. We're going to go ahead and just grab, once again, some apple barrel white, because it's cheap and plentiful. And we're just going to go ahead and kind of see if I can do some highlights on it to really hit that it's supposed to be a white squig. Squigosaur, whatever you want to call it. And I think maybe having some of those leftover vestiges of the blue are going to play to my strengths, because that means it'll be a nice cool blue, which is kind of what, or a nice cool white, which is kind of what I'm looking for. So this might work out better for me than I expected. Yeah, that's definitely giving it a little more body, and I mean that in a good way. So we'll see how this looks, because I'm not going to need a whole lot of it. So yeah, by any chance, did you do any Orktober themed minis this month? From what it looks like, you stayed primarily in the wheelhouse of dwarves, which is perfectly fine, but just kind of curious. Okay. Go ahead and see what I can do here. There we go. Unfortunately for me, this white tends to run very, very dry very quickly. And it's also very powdery. So it does kind of suck that I've got to deal with that issue. There we go. So I think it's coming through okay. Because once again, it's not going to remain this white. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I am going to go back over this with something. Honestly, though, I do kind of like how this is looking. Just dwarves, they're god-awful to build. I bet. Sorry, I'm focusing really in on this, so my attention to chat is kind of minimal right now. Is it because they're really tiny, or is it because the way that they were, like, designed makes them miserable to build? Okay. Yeah, I actually kind of like that color. Station Porch has some great sculpts. Yeah, they do, Grim. Thank you for stopping by. How you doing? I'm kind of waffling on how I want to paint this guy just because I went in without a plan, and normally when I start painting a mini, I have some kind of approach that I want to go for, but I kind of panicked when I realized I hadn't done anything or planned anything for October, so I was like, oh, okay, I better think of something fast, and this was the coolest looking one I could find. And they do have a lot of great ones, but it was just like, which one do I really want to paint? And the answer just ended up being this Beast Boss. So that's what's getting the works today. Oh. Here. Do that. Get some of that alcohol to get it out of there. Okay, and that should be good, just cleaning the painting space tonight. Cool choice for Orktober. Thank you. Yeah, it was born out of desperation and panic. But yeah, I think this is a good one. I think, though, today I'm primarily going to focus on the lad, or on the Beast Boss. No, the Squigosaur, that's it. I'm going to focus on this little guy. And then next Tuesday, I'm probably going to go ahead and actually work on the rider. So, once again, not entire mold lines all over the place. Some of the horns left off the helmet, so you have to glue them on. Support sprues in the beard, so when you cut them off, the stretch marks go into the details of the beards. Yeah, I can see why that would be miserable. But yeah, I went into, like I was saying, I went into actually no, you know what? I've got speed paints that might be perfect for this. I went into building this guy without much of a plan, so we'll see how this turns out. That's part of the reason why I just immediately went airbrush time, because I'm not really sure what to do with him. So hopefully, through kind of futzing around with him and doing some experimentation, I'll be able to figure out exactly how I want to paint the guy. I think the Beast is going to get it tonight, and then once I'm done with him, I'll start working on the actual rider. And if I do a decent enough job, I might just go ahead and slap this on a diorama. Because that's a promise I keep making, and at some point I'm going to have to follow through with it. Okay, plenty of that. And then the next thing will be... Oh, so instead of using a wash, because I realized how good these speed paints are, I'm using Speed Paint Beowulf Blue. And I'm going to add some paint thinner, airbrush thinner, and some flow improver to it to see if I can make a half-decent wash without actually having to use a wash. Because washes copy staining as much as they do is becoming kind of a problem. So mayhap I can just grab, say, this fat brush and hit it a couple times and get rid of some of the powderiness that came off of the white paint that I was using. So let's hope and pray that this turns out okay. Okay, I can already say that yes, it will. It's definitely turning everything a shade of blue that I wasn't quite anticipating. Though what I just realized what would probably help would be me hitting it with a hairdryer to make sure that all the paint's dry. You can tell I'm pretty disorganized tonight because this is not normally an issue I have. Good enough for government work. Back to it. Go ahead and hit the other side. And yeah, that looks like that's going on a little better. So that's something I've been meaning to do too, was clean up my painting space. I've got quite a bit of just crap lying around in here, and it really does need to be kind of tidied away. And, you know, since I'm in an unfinished basement, that's really not helping things in terms of trying to have a space that's both comfy and usable as hobby space. I have quite a few... Well, I mean, it's unfinished, so I have quite a bit of dust that just kind of gathers around and gets everywhere, which is going to be a problem until I finally finish the damn basement. But that's not going to happen anytime soon just because of sheer cost. So, in the meantime, I'm just going to have to make sure that I dedicate some time to come down here and just clean it all up. But the issue I have with that is I just don't have any free time. I'd normally say, like, do it on the weekends, but my weekends are spent working. So, it kind of is one of those it is what it is moments where I'll just kind of hold down the fort, keep doing what I'm doing, and then, once there's a little more financial stability, I can actually go ahead and start, you know, planning ahead for some of this stuff. Okay, go ahead and hit all of that with the blue. Hit that. Now, unfortunately, all of this blue is starting to kind of override a lot of the white gradient that I made. So hopefully, as this dries, I'll be able to dry brush back over it and really only hit the raised spots where I want it to kind of keep that great white shark look. Right now, it's just blue, which I guess is okay, just not what I was initially going for. But at this point, I'm just kind of in a happy little accidents mood where I'm hoping that by futzing around with it enough, I'll eventually figure it out. Hello, Shiny Mute Paints, how's it going? I saw that you posted some things in the Discord, and I promise I'll get to them in a minute. But right now, I'm trying to figure out how I want this guy to look, because I didn't really go in with a plan. So I'm just kind of slapping paint on him until hopefully something catches my eye and I can go, oh, that's where I want to go with this one. And then I'll go back into the Discord and I'll be like, look at these cool things that Shiny Mew Paints made, and I can go ahead and start showing them off. I think I'm kind of reaching a saturation point though with this blue, where I can't do much more, which means I'm just going to have to go ahead and start hitting him with the hairdryer. So yeah, this is a Station Forge Mini. This is not an official Games Workshop one. And I'm using it as my Orktober entry for this year. Just to say that I did something fun for October that is Orc related. Missed a spot. There we go. That's all going to be pink anyway once I get to his actual mandibles. But yeah, I originally had him painted kind of... Oh, jeez. I don't know that number, but it can definitely stop with that horrifying buzzing. Sorry, one moment. I got a phone call from a number that I don't recognize. I will be right back. Be right back. Who's a darn telemarketer? They were trying to tell me about debt relief that I don't need because I don't really have any debts. And so I decided to take that time to also use the bathroom since I had to go. But yeah, Shiny Mew Paints, how has your evening been? How are you doing? I saw that you got some of your some more painting done, and since I'm kind of at a stop point right now, before I move on to the next stage, I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at it. Because I saw that you had some more of your goblins done, and those looked really neat. Let's see what we have here. Is that a Bowsette? Oh, that's a goblin Bowsette. And it looks like you got another one that's ready to go, but hasn't quite gotten painted yet. Maybe primed? I see your catapult. You donated plasma, so you're exhausted. Yeah, tell me about it. I used to do that when I was working solely at Geek Squad. That was kind of how I supplemented my income with by donating plasma a few days out of the week. Was this your first time, or was this something that you've done multiple times before? Let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. See what you got. See what you got. Window capture. There we go. There's that awesome bazooka gobbo, or not bazooka gobbo, catapult gobbo with the squirrel that you've been working on. And again, did a great job on the eyes because those are friggin' difficult to do, but you managed to nail it. I also like your, does your painting handle have an extra bit on it? Because that looks like a Games Workshop painting handle. Wait, no, that's not a Games Workshop painting handle. Is that a 3D printed painting handle? Very cool. And I see you've got your Bowsette here, but as a gobbo. The hip flexibility in Bowsette to be able to do that, that's pretty impressive. And it looks like, I'm not sure who this character is supposed to be, other than that it's one of Twin Goddess miniatures, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to paint. You've been doing it since 2019. Yeah, I used to donate plasma in college, and I stopped because I left college, but it was definitely a great way to make some quick money. Wait, I probably ought to turn the window back on. Okay, window capture off, camera back on. So I'm just going to take this real quick, use it to dry off this squiggly boy. And then I'm probably going to bring back up its color to more of a white. Most likely with a dry brush this time, so I can maintain some of the color underneath. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick dry brush of the lens to bring out the metallics. Because I'll be completely honest, I'm not super interested in making this thing like, you know, competition quality or anything like that. Or what I would consider competition quality. I'm just going to go ahead and get it up to like fun display model quality. I think that's going to be the plan for today. So one of the first things I'm going to need is gunmetal, because oh, there it is, gunmetal. You're kind of stuck on a color scheme for hack. Oh, neat. I don't know, for some reason when I look at that I think of like Gadget Hack Wrench from I think a Tailspin. So maybe like kind of a mauve, or no, a lilac. Would it be a lilac? A lilac jumpsuit? I don't know, but that's where my brain went immediately when I saw it, is it looked like a goblin version of the Gadget character from Tailspin. So okay, yeah, while I wait for that paint to dry a little more, I'm just gonna go ahead and immediately go into the dry brushing of the metallics, or of the metal legs, because I just want to get this thing done quickly. And here's kind of the beautiful thing about metallics, is that if you dry brush them on properly, then it ends up looking really good regardless. I tend to use a black canvas, like a black base coat on it, just because it allows for the greatest contrast between the color of the metal and the color of the shadows in the metal. And then I go back over it with, you know, some kind of shade, most likely a Nuln oil. And that Nuln oil is what kind of brings back out the shadows. Okay, same kind of thing here. Just hitting it with a very quick metallic. And I was telling a buddy who plays orcs that if I like the scheme, I might end up making a full army out of it, because I have the models to make a visually distinct orc army of proxied beast snagas, but I'm not sure if I really want to go that route. So doing this is going to kind of tell me whether or not it's going to be worth the journey. But yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen Tailspin or you know the character Gadget Hack Wrench from Tailspin. I'd honestly be surprised if you didn't, because the internet exists, and since she was a competent female character, she was really well loved. But that is potentially an option for you. I will say, the decision to put him on a single clawed talon charging forward, with how just kind of unstable and fragile Resin is, feels like a bad idea, because honestly he just feels like if I push on him too hard while I'm doing this dry brushing, he's gonna fall apart. Her hair is gonna be my old failsafe teal or brown. Her pants are gonna, and computer bag are gonna be shades of brown. I mean, that's not a bad idea. The only thing I'd kind of worry about there is that she'd end up looking very monotonous color-wise, but I trust that you would have the ability to bring out the depth of color using, you know, one thematic color across it all. So I think you should do what makes you happy, because we're painting miniatures. That's what this is all about, right? Is you know, getting personal enjoyment out of this this hobby. Because if you can't do that, what's the point? That, and to be completely honest, I'll just be super stoked and super impressed if you manage to get some really cool color depth out of not quite a singular color scheme, but one that is based around a single color. Painting's your therapy? Understandable. The world sucks enough as it is. Might as well enjoy something, right? Okay, now for the most part, I don't want to touch that because it's still, like, wet. Let's say for the most part, I've got him dry brushed in. And what I actually tend to do whenever I dry brush metallic is I really don't like leaving the metallic one note like it is right now, because it's a single color. Metallics are more fun when there's a lot of rust and a lot of discoloration from it. So what I'm actually going to do next is I'm going to start adding other colors to the metallic, other metallics, to try and bring out some more interest. So in this case, let's see, probably use this hammered copper and start adding it in the gunmetal, and that way I can start getting some more color on top of the initial metal color to act like rust and just kind of discoloration, and then eventually go up to, like, not quite silver, but the next level up of metallic to kind of hit the highlights on it, you know, the high edges. So we'll see how all that looks. It's not something I consider myself to be exceptionally good at. It's just something I like to do to make especially orc stuff look a lot more kind of aged, you know what I mean? Just in spots where to give it a little more wear and tear. Does gunmetal turn orange as it oxidizes? I have no clue. I figure that, you know, it's some kind of iron, so it's some kind of carbon base, so it's going to rust. And I feel like the copper kind of adds to that rusty effect, which you're getting to kind of see as I'm doing it right now. And if anything, it just provides a little more color depth than just that one shade of metal. You know, copper turns green. Yeah, copper, what is it called? It gets, not filigree. Filigree is, gosh, what is it called? My brain is dying on me tonight. Verdigris. It verdigris, right? And so in this case, this is working kind of as a combination of like oxidation and just a little bit of like dirt and debris. So I'm probably going to be adding some just brown paint to this as well, just to show where the dirt has struck this or has gathered on this mini. But again, I'm not trying to go for something super spectacular here. I'm mainly just trying to get this guy painted up so I can be like, hey, I did an Orktober. And hopefully it'll look good and interesting. Unless it's treated gunmetal usually. Yeah, exactly. And what'll end up happening with this stuff is, like I said, I'm going to go back over it with a lighter color just to provide some more highlight. But yeah, you can see it adds a lot more flavor to, or a lot more dimension to the model than just that straight gunmetal silver color that it did have going on. And so that way, all of the metal on this Mini looks like properly weathered and beat up. And if I was doing this to be like a competition piece, first of all, this isn't how I would do it. I probably would have done him in sub-assemblies. But I would also be a lot more specific as to where it was all gathering. There we go. So you could use a mud texture paste between the toes. Oh, I'm definitely going to do that. I appreciate that you're confirming my suspicions that that's something I should do, to be completely honest. I 3D printed the base, and the base is using FDM instead of resin. And unfortunately, FDM doesn't print as tightly. Hey, Lotus K, how's it going? Good to see you. Resin doesn't print as tightly, doesn't have as thin a layer line as FDM, or no, FDM doesn't have as thin a layer line as resin. So the base doesn't look that great. And I'm very tired, in case you can't tell. And so I'm probably going to cover the dang thing in texture paste just to really make it look a little bit better and look a little less FDM printed. But right now I'm just kind of in the process of doing a lot of really like big gross paint bits so I can figure out what the heck I'm going to do with this guy. How you doing, Lotus K? It's good to see you. Happy Orktober. I'm working on my little Orky lad, which in this case is a Station Forge model. That's a proxy of the Beast Snagga line that Games Workshop does. And I only kind of chose the guy because he's neat looking, and I was like, he looks like he'll be fun to paint. And I'm not going to say I'm regretting it, because I'm not, but I didn't go in with a plan like I normally do. And so I'm kind of struggling to figure out what direction do I want to take this guy. And so instead, I'm kind of just spitballing around and messing with the paint scheme to see if I can figure out something. Like, eventually, he's going to be more white. Like, I remember seeing someone did one of the squigs, the beast boss on the squig with like a great white shark look. And I was going to do that, but they went a lot more brown with their color, a lot warmer. And for some reason, my brain told me it would be better to go, like, cool. So I airbrushed him with like a gray, and then a white, and then a brown. And now, then I hit him with a speed paint that I used kind of as an oil wash, but it completely covered him. So now I'm just kind of waiting for it to dry so I can dry brush him over with more of a white again, to bring that white back out. Yeah, this is my Orktober mini. Did you do an Orktober mini? I'm just kind of curious because I normally get to watch people do cool community stuff. I'm usually not part of it. And so now that there seems to be a little group of painters who enjoy watching me, or at least stopping by and saying hi, I can actually ask them, hey, what did you do for Orktober? And whether they did or not, completely up to them, but it is nice to know that I'm now part of a small community and I'm participating in stuff, you know? Okay, and this one actually didn't print very nicely. It's a little muddy. That's okay. Oh, the implication that this thing's all metal is wild. Okay, mix back in. And what I'm doing, as I was just explaining, is I'm not going completely regular metallic with him. I'm trying to add some bits and bobs. Why is chat being weird? You're working on an orc right now? Very cool. Very cool. I'm using what is this color? A copper color to try and bring out some like worn weathering, beat downness. Sorry, my brain ain't functioning tonight. I'm very tired. To the metal parts of him, so that way he looks a little bit more like he's been out in the elements for a while, and so his metallic bits are kind of all hecked up. Okay. So in terms of doing the backplating, because I don't want the backplating to just remain black, but I'm kind of worried about bringing it up to like a white or like a gray, because I feel like it's gonna match too much with... Actually, I think I know what I'm gonna do there. That's gonna require some hand painting. But right now, what he requires is one more hit with the hair dryer to see if I can finally get him to completely dry off. And what I think I'm actually going to do with him, and this is just going to be pure experimentation, is I'm going to try and make a black wash, once again using the speed paint stuff, for the limbs, and use a metallic paint as an edge highlight with a dry brush, to see if that really brings some definition into the mechanical parts of them, the metallic parts of them. I don't know if that's going to work. Need a palette cleanser from working on your Officio Assassinorum. Yeah, that does sound kind of neat, especially with how different they are. Speed Paint Grim Black. Speed Paint Grim Black, for those who are interested. Let's see if this actually does anything. And actually, I can use the same well that I used to do the blue. We just add a little bit of a coolness to the black. We'll see. Honestly, this guy's going quicker than I thought he would. I was not expecting this to go as fast as it has, because it's not even 8 o'clock yet. I worked all weekend, and so my butt's dragging pretty bad. And it's making it so that talking is becoming a fairly concentrated effort on my part, which sucks because I'd like to be able to hold pretty regular conversation. But I'm really struggling to remain focused between the painting and the talking and the figuring out what I'm doing with this guy. Actually, I'm just going to use this. Mix all that together, and hopefully this will end up creating exactly what I wanted. This is doing exactly what I wanted. I love it when stuff works. Okay, fantastic. It's creating some really nice deep contrast without being like without intruding on the rest of the models. I'm pretty jazzed that worked out okay. I'm pretty jazzed that worked out okay. I'm getting this really nice shadow and kind of panel line from this stuff without it taking over the model's color. And I guess it can't because it's just a straight black. And yeah, I forgot with this I can kind of just stab at it and it'll go ahead and fill in. That's so cool. Fantastic. Okay, same thing here. And you can actually watch it kind of run down, almost like an ink, which was the whole idea initially. And I'm pretty happy that it's working okay. Like the whole point of this was just to run down the mini, give it a slightly darker complexion, and do some nice little panel lining for me. And that's exactly what it's doing. Very cool. And then once again, once I'm done with this bit, hit it with the hairdryer again, because there's not really any clumping happening, which is great. And exactly what I wanted. Okay. And what's also kind of nice is it's going back and highlighting the scales a little bit, which, while not the immediate goal, definitely helps. So yeah, now all the metal's got this kind of dark metallicness to it, which is... Metal has metallicness, who'd have thunk it? which is really helping with the overall look, I think. Thank you. I think he is pretty. This is gonna be a really neat, unintentionally good model when I'm done with it. And hopefully doing all this is gonna inform if I decide to finish it, or finish like an army with it, because Station Forge has made like a whole line of these guys. And it would be a very easy army to do because I'm not really trying to do a full, like, varied army. It would be like 3 squads of Beast Boys, and then a couple of squads of Beast Riders, and then this guy and the boss. But yeah, like that actually turned out really good. Also with Hack, I want to do her head obnoxiously loud pink. That'll be a good pop. That'll be a good contrast to the rest of her. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit this with the hair dryer. Actually, wait a minute. I missed a spot. I missed all of these little guys down here. And once again, not too worried if it runs, because most of this is going to get covered anyway. So if I can just get some nice contrast on the metal bits, then I'll just be able to texture paste the crap out of the actual base and cover up some of those unsightly layer lines. Yeah, I think an obnoxious pink hat on Hack will look really good to offset how uniform the rest of her outfit is. Wow, this is drying very cool. I don't even know. Okay, good. The hair dryer is not coming through unless I start talking. Okay. Now, I think... Where did my other... I thought I had another one of you. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Okay. I think... Which one of these do I want to use? I think this one's going to go for the metallics again. This one's going to go for the white. So, that's going to be a white. I think we're going to put some of that on there. Do some of that to get some of the moisture into it. Sorry, I'm doing some off-camera stuff to try and get the dry brush ready. Okay, and I think for this... What do I want to do for this? I'm stinking. What do I want to do? I think I'm going to use some Vallejo white, because I don't have a whole lot left. And we're going to see how that spreads on it. Oh wow, I think I'm almost completely out of Vallejo white. I think that is a good sign, because I've been wanting to switch over to Pro Acryl anyway, so the quicker I can be done with some of the base colors, the quicker I can kind of cycle them out. This is a considerably more vibrant and honestly blue white than what else I was working with. Okay, I think for what I'm looking for, this will work. I think. I don't know if I like how this is turning out. Unfortunately, the brush strokes on this are very, very noticeable. Though I think this is going to be one of those gotta live with it things, and I'll just work on the texture later. I'll work on evening out the texture later. Because this is very definitely kind of imposing itself on the actual model in terms of highlighting. And I suppose in some ways that's okay. But I'm really not sure. What do you guys think? Because it's definitely asserting itself over the other paint jobs that I've done. If anything, it's just going to end up making it have a whole lot of depth behind the actual individual white color. But, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. I do know that some of this needs to come off. Oh, no, it doesn't. That's just on there. Okay, that's fine then, I suppose. Let's dry that back off. And after I dry that back off, it's going to get hit with the white, and we'll see how that turns out, I suppose. This model is definitely turning out differently than I would have anticipated. But, once again, part of the process when you don't know what you're doing. And I have no clue what I am doing. Just a little bit in there. I mean, he's definitely a neat color. Nothing but happy little accents. That's kind of what it feels like because, like I said, I didn't have a plan going in, and I can't say I'm mad with how it's turning out. It's just not what I expected. You know what I mean? Though, to be honest, I also didn't know what I expected. I think in the end, it's probably going to look fine. It's just like, what's happening to it right now? Right now, I'm going to clean off this one brush. Just a dry brush. Done. Done with the big boy. I don't actually use these dry brushes a whole lot. I keep hearing that people really like them and that they're really good. I have mixed feelings about them because it doesn't seem to matter how lightly I brush with them. They always seem to leave like really bad smudges in ways that I don't quite jive with. But it seemed to work okay, so you know, I'll just go with it. So how's your week been? Outside of the painting and whatnot, it's been, I don't know, 7 days since I've last seen some of you guys. Yeah, it's an army painter dry brush. It's supposed to be like the artist opus style. They kind of have the round brush heads. But since I started painting, I've been using a much older flat army painter brush. And I've honestly beat the crap out of it, but I really like it. Is this one. This thing is beat the heck and back, but I've gotten so used to how it works that it makes the Army Painter Masterclass ones feel wrong. You know what I mean? Okay, so initially I went with Vallejo Gunmetal as my original metallic dry brush, and now I'm going to move up to Vallejo Chainmail Silver, which should be a little bit brighter than the gunmetal, and I'm going to use that to kind of very gently dry brush some highlights onto this guy, and we'll see how that looks. Which, of course, paint has molded onto the cap. That's okay. I got it, guys. It's okay. I got it. Okay. There's that. Now, I think, once again, in this case, I don't even know if I want to use the brush. Have I used you for anything? Nope. You're still good. I'm actually going to switch over. I'm going to use a cheap makeup brush that I bought a long time ago. So that's going to be the dry brush I use. And again, the whole point of this is just to kind of do a little bit of a highlight. On parts of the mini that should see the most amount of light. And I think, is it working? I can't even tell. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it with some white, because that will definitely brighten it up. Get some more of that silver. Add just a pinch of white to the silver. Something that blew my mind the first time I saw it was, I think, Guy from Midwinter Minis suggesting adding color to a metallic to give the metallic a slightly different sheen. And so hopefully that'll work okay for what I'm about to do. Yeah, it seems to be working okay. And this is actually one of the bigger problems I have with metallics, is that because of the nature of the metallic, they're really hard to kind of create an edge highlight on. And I mean, a lot of that is user error because, you know, I'm not super good with it, but I just feel like it's so much easier to find and create a clear edge highlight and a boundary with non-metallic paints. And I think that's why I started moving back towards non-metallic metals, because I just felt like I had more control over the paint as I worked it into the model. With metallics, it feels like I'm kind of at the whim of the dry brush, like what's happening right now, where that's gotten really sloppy and ugly. And so I kind of lose some of that clarity and quality that I appreciate so much with non-metallics. But you know, it is what it is. Okay. Not sure if that really brought everything back out, but I think it's turning out okay. Get rid of some of this paint off of this dry brush. Yep, and there he goes. I actually think I'm okay with this. Oops, there he goes. I think I'm actually okay with how this is turning out. I think, though, I'm at the point where I probably ought to start actually using paints. So I think that's going to be the next step. I'm going to take this off. I also need to, at some point, actually fix my wet palette, because it's got a huge tear in the paper because I've just continued to use the same paper for way too long. So hopefully at some point I'll have the wherewithal to go ahead and swap it out and get something far less grody looking into my wet palette. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I guess, is going to be the talons and the mouth. So those are all going to, and also the horns up here. All of those are going to get kind of a dark brown look to them. So let's mix in some Vallejo flat brown, and then we're going to work our way up to like a bone color. And this is where the painting comes back in. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep it in focus on the camera now that I've kind of moved everything else. So, these talons. I'm going to get this color over it. Now, I don't know if you guys got into anything interesting over the past week or so, but between work and just being exhausted, I unfortunately have led a very boring week. The only thing I really did for fun was last night I finally convinced my wife, which didn't take a lot of convincing, to be completely honest. She was very amenable to it almost immediately. But I got Dragon Ball Superhero a while ago, and it's just kind of been sitting in a folder, and I finally sat down and gave it a good watch. And I don't know if any of you are Dragon Ball fans, but I am kind of a... what's the word I'm looking for? I haven't been a fan for a while, just because after Z happened, I fell off because I wasn't too jazzed with GT, and then, you know, the movie came out and was bad, and Toriyama, because he was so embarrassed by how bad the movie was, he came back and he did Battle of the Gods, and that kind of revitalized interest in Dragon Ball Z, so he came back for good and started working on Super. You know, that whole story. But yeah, I was happy that he was doing work, but I was just not super jazzed or into Dragon Ball anymore at that point. But I had heard that Dragon Ball Super was really good, and it followed my favorite character, or gave my favorite character a little more time, which was Piccolo. I've always been a Piccolo fan. And so I went ahead and got it, and I gave it a watch last night, and it was really good. And again, I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but if you like Dragon Ball, I strongly suggest you go see Dragon Ball Super. Because, like, the movie was just good Toriyama goodness. And I think that's the only way I can really describe it, because it's definitely got Akira Toriyama's handprints all over it. It feels like a Toriyama movie. It does. Your son watches Dragon Ball. You also haven't watched since Z. Yeah. I'll be completely honest with you. I actually stopped watching around the Cell saga because I remember really disliking the Funimation dub when they took over, because I was so used to and what's the phrase I want to look for? Bought into the original Ocean Group dub that I just kind of stopped. And most of the information I got from Dragon Ball came from, you know, trolling forums and finding and spoiling it for myself and the like. And so I just kind of gave up on the censored American version, because it wasn't my thing. But yeah, honestly, if you like Dragon Ball Z, you're gonna like Super, because it's got that feel to it, and it harkens back to a time before every fight became, you know, Goku reaches a new power level of whatever and then uses that to beat the bad. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because it clearly is a winning formula, and there's clearly more nuance to it than what I just said. But that's what kind of made me fall out of interest with it, is even though Goku is a well-loved character, I've always found him kind of not compelling. I think he peaked in the original Dragon Ball. I think the battles taking 10 episodes took you out. Yeah, that's something that you know, they extended out for filler, and it became absolutely annoying to watch. That's something that they don't have a chance to do with the movie. It runs at a fairly tight hour and a half. So like I said, if you get a chance and you're at all interested, I'd give it a shot. Otherwise, you know, disregard. It's entirely 3D, except for some flashback scenes, which are really well animated 2D. And they just do a darn good job with it. A+ work. But yeah, that's like the only thing I've done in the past week, because I've just been so busy with work and so tired when I get home from work. Oh yeah, I beat Space Marine 2. I don't know if you guys have played Space Marine 2. I also found out that game has like 10 million people playing it. I was really impressed. They said that they're at 4.5 million purchases across the consoles, which for a Warhammer game just blows my mind. And so they're all in on trying to make the game better. I'm also using this Vallejo model colored buff, which is kind of my bone color. It's a little... Oh, thank you for the follow. It's a little warmer than just a typical bone color. It's got kind of a yellowy tint to it, but I like it because it's not quite pale, so it manages to do quite a few things for me. Yo, great streamer, what's up? You're an awesome streamer. I'd like to be friends so we can play games together. Kindly add me up in Discord. Thanks. Okay, cool. Fair enough. I don't game too much, but I appreciate it. You're watching Dan to Dan right now? I've seen the opening to that, and I was like, oh, that looks neat. But unfortunately, the anime watching in the house has kind of died off a bit. Though I have a feeling, from what I've heard, it's really good. So I guess my question for you is it really good? I will admit, I am kind of tickled that I just got a follow from someone on a mini painting channel where they want to play games with me, and I don't really game on this channel. That's okay. Every now and then I do. Every now and then I have some friends who I play video game with, and I feel like, hey, this would be fun for the channel. So I've done that. I've played Space Marine 1. I played a little bit of Space Marine 2 with them. I did some Drunk Darktide with them, the one time I drank. So yeah, it is something that can happen. But yeah, I know next to nothing about Dan to Dan, including if I'm pronouncing it right, which most likely not. There are only 3 episodes on Crunchyroll, but it's so good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that it's a good time. I am always tickled by the fact that Crunchyroll went legit and became what it was supposed to not be, you know? Or it be what is it? It lived long enough to become a villain in some ways, and that will never not tickle me. Unfortunately, I don't have the money for Crunchyroll, so I had to end my subscription because I was paying for Hulu, and I was paying for Netflix, and I was paying for Crunchyroll, and I was paying for HBO, and it was just like, I hate what our video, our TV viewing system has become. It feels awful. But yeah, that's I was, gosh, it's been a while since what was the other one? Funimation was the other. Free Crunchyroll will never be a thing again. Yeah, I know, right? You know what will always be a thing though? Yar har fiddle dee dee. I've got 3 different shows that I have acquired and have been able to watch despite my ended Crunchyroll account. And which is really unfortunate, because I really would just love to throw money at the people who make good things, but it's just I can't afford it all. It's so stinking expensive. Okay, so that's you. I don't know how much you really saw, but that's kind of how I'm doing the talons right now. I started with a brown base, and then I mixed in some of the buff with the brown, and just kind of gently, almost dry brushed it back over. And so the next step for me is going to be to go straight to the buff, and hopefully do a much lighter dry brush than what I've been doing, and see if that will actually highlight this okay. So this is where I've got to be a lot more delicate than what I've been doing, because by and large I was kind of talking over what I was doing, so I was spacing out. And now, since I've got to actually place the paint, I've got to pay attention a bit more. Okay. Now, one of the shows that I've been meaning to catch back up on that I haven't been able to is Mob Psycho. I don't know if... Oh my goodness, I'm being raided. Thank you, Jace DeFaces. I appreciate it. I got to see my stupid Slime Arbo video. Good to see you guys. How are you doing? How was your stream? My name is Benry Paints. I'm a small-time painter, and I'm just kind of working on a mini for Orktober. It's not an official orc by any means. This is a Station Forge orc. It's called a Beast Rider boss, I believe. And I'm not really sure what I'm doing with him. I just kind of started working on him, and this is what he looks like now. Oh, there's a spider. There we go. So yeah, thank you guys. How's it going? How you doing? You were wondering exactly what it was when you first saw it? Yeah, this is a Station Forge proxy of the beast boss on a giant squig, I think is what it's called, or a squigosaur. Is there such a thing as an official orc? That's a really good question. I completely forgot about Orktober until like 3 days ago, so I'm just kind of frantically trying to get this guy done before October is officially over. And oh yeah, the shark looks looking squig. Yeah, kind of. I was inspired by Midwinter Minis actually doing kind of a great white shark look, and you can clearly see that I've gone off the rails with it, but I think it ended up being okay, so I'm not overly worried about it. And so right now I'm just kind of going through And now that I've done the airbrushing bits and getting the kind of the scales to look right, thank you, much appreciated. What were you working on? What was your stream about? How are you doing? Hopefully you had a good stream. Right now I'm just trying to kind of get all of the bony horn stuff painted up and looking good. I will say, for all of their faults, nothing is off the rails, it's a creative expression. Yeah, that is true. Where I end up is not necessarily where I thought I was supposed to be, but it's definitely where I'm meant to be. Especially with orcs, right? Every mistake is actually an innovation. But, yeah, if all the things Twitch has done, I gotta say, I love the new miniatures and models setup they've got. You finished on games, but you were building a new Blood Angels captain earlier. Very cool. That's right. Those did come out recently, didn't they? I'm an Imperial Fist player, so I've kind of resigned myself to never ever seeing any more models from my army that are unique. But I don't know. What do you think of the Blood Angels release? I mean, you got the captain, so you can't be too mad at it. But I do know that there was some ire when it came to like the Sanguinary Guard and whatnot. Was the captain at least fun to put together? Because I thought that looked really good, and I was really happy to see that some of their models just absolutely slapped. But yeah, like, what game were you playing? I was just talking about Space Marine 2 and how wildly successful that game has been and how excited I am. A bit meh. You'll be upgrading a lot of them with 3D printed bits and you'll add nipples on them. Yeah, they wouldn't be Blood Angels without nipples, right? I do think that is a very funny sticking point for Blood Angels fans, and I don't deny them that. I think it's great that they're that passionately like, no! My giant golden men need nipple armor. But I mean, they've always had it, so why not keep it, right? It's not like their incredible sculpting guys couldn't do it. Okay, let's also get the teeth while I'm here. The wings, you will 100% be adding wings. Yeah, that's fair. I do think that that's one of the things they should not have removed. Of all the things to remove from the Sanguinary Guard, why one of the most iconic things about them? Because it's like gold armor, wings. Well, we got gold armor. What about the wings, though? Right? But I mean, I guess, you know, what is the phrase I'm looking for? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? There are so many great additions and add-ons and kit bashes that you could do now. So, at the very least, there's all that. Let's see, the next thing that needs to happen is add a little bit more Vallejo buff back into the Vallejo flat brown. And this will give me kind of a good launching point to do my dry brush from. But yeah, I'm just kind of hoping that I know that there's going to be an update for Codex compliant Space Marines in December. But I'm just kind of hoping they don't make Imperial Fist much worse than they already are. The Anvil Siege Force, I like it for what it is, but it is bad, right? It is bad. You've added nipples to the Captain, Sanguinor, and the 3 Sanguinary Guard. You can't build the Sanguinary Guard yet, or my Death Company is waiting for the release of the Grey Tide Crimson Lords. Oh yeah, those things. Yeah, the Crimson Lords upgrades look fantastic. So those are probably going to look definitely going to look really, really cool on your models. So that's a good call. Hold off on doing the big upgrades until, you know, that friggin' amazing Kickstarter type thing finishes getting funded and gets released. Okay. Now, honestly, I probably ought to just go ahead and do the bottom here too. I don't know. I don't paint orcs very often. I don't paint them naturally. They're not my main army. So I'm having a lot of like weird doubts of, am I doing this right? Is this going to look good? And every time I think that, I kind of look at what I'm doing and realize, oh yeah, he looks fantastic. Don't worry about it. Okay, there we go there. Bring it a little bit further back if I can. Okay, mix in a little bit more of the Vallejo buff color. And again, keep it directed because all of the texture going in one way is going to really help sell the color. It comes out Friday, already pre-ordered day one, but you still need to get a mate to print them for you. Well, without exposing too much, where are you based out of? Because I have, or you probably already have someone to print them out if you're saying you've got a mate to do so. I was going to suggest I do have a decent 3D printer, as, you know, this mini kind of entails. And if you really need, I can definitely get it printed for you. But if you got someone already lined up for it, then cool. But yeah, I've actually been trying to rebuild my Imperial Fist army because I realized that I really just kind of want to go full in on the heavy siege, heavy fortify theme with it and stop trying to do everything. Because I don't play much 40k, but the last time I played, I got slapped pretty darn hard because I made my fists try and do too much, and they weren't good at anything. UK, and yeah, you got a friend sorted. Very cool, very cool. Yeah, no, I'm based out of the United States, if you can't tell by my accent, but that's something I definitely like to do for people is 3D print them some stuff and get it out to them at a fairly affordable price. Generally, I just kind of charge for the price of the resin and shipping. Okay. Now, hopefully, this isn't coming across as too powdery. Though, admittedly, it is bone, so it is going to have a little bit of, you know, oxidation and whatnot on it. Okay. Go ahead and hit some of this underneath just to give it a little texture. There we go. Time to do the teeth. I can tell I've been following you for a while from a shadow, but never got around to popping by. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, most of the time, these are pretty chill. I just kind of paint whatever I paint, talk to people, try and explain whatever I'm doing, so that way there's some learning involved. I'm not the greatest painter by any means. Not a competition level painter or anything, but I feel like I've got a decent enough technical understanding that I can help people who are much newer learn how to do it. Because one of my favorite things is teaching. I was a school teacher for a bit, but something I've noticed about even like great YouTubers and great instructors is I have a hard time following them sometimes because it looks like they're just kind of, oh yeah, then you do the thing, and you see them work on it on one bit, and then suddenly the entire thing is beautifully painted and shaded. And that's never been super helpful for me. And I can never catch any painter at a good time because I'm streaming because my hours are so different. So my goal is to just kind of be there to answer any questions and demo any techniques I can. Let's see. I think I want to add a little bit more white to the teeth. So I'm actually going to move on to Vallejo Pale Sand, which works as a really nice warm white. So I'm going to mix that up a little bit. Gonna go ahead and put that on the palette cam, or the palette. I usually have a palette camera, but I kind of removed it so it wouldn't get hit by the airbrush. So I don't have it today, but my palette is kind of a disaster. I've been using the same palette paper for a few months now, and I just clean it after every use. And by and large, that's worked, but it's definitely starting to reach its end of life. And I most likely am just going to need to go ahead in this case and throw away the sponge, because I'm pretty sure it's not usable anymore after this. But that's okay. Let's see if I can. Okay, yeah, that's what it was missing. That final highlight to really hit the texture on the horn. And I think I'm actually going to go back and color the edges of the horn a darker brown to contrast the lighter color that I just put on there. But yeah, something I've always wanted to do that I have yet to do is I want to play Rogue Trader on stream. And my original plan was I was going to go ahead and do so and play as, like, the absolute most devout, awful loyalist I could. But, my time and ability to stream got narrowed down to 1 day. And, at this point, I'd rather just stay to being a painting channel, you know? And helping out and just being kind of a place for people to hang out and paint on their own, too, if they want to. So that's kind of what it's turned into. Oh, that was probably a bit too much, but I'll make it work. Okay, go ahead and edge highlight that a little bit with the brush. Okay. Yeah, this was not the color I meant him to be. This was not what I wanted him to look like, but he's turning out pretty okay. I think actually I'm going to go ahead and hit his talons a little bit with the pale sand mix as well. Give it a little bit more of a highlight, just kind of at the edges. Yeah, that's basically been the thing, is just, it's all been happy mistakes. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll find out eventually, because it's going to end up looking good. So, I ain't mad at it. I went into this without a plan. And, I'm kind of liking how it's turning out, because I was like, what color am I going to make him? Because I didn't want to do, like, a lizard green on him, since, you know, the orc is going to be kind of a green color. And I didn't want to do a squid pink, because he doesn't quite have a squig look to him, so I didn't want to just go back to squig as the color scheme. So the fact that this kind of sea creature blue and white ended up looking good, I'll take that. Okay. Next. Didn't even have eyes, I just noticed that. Next are his gums, I think. You almost always YOLO and try new things, never really know what I'm doing, but you've only been painting 18 months or so. That's a pretty good time to be painting. I'm glad you're enjoying it, because I think it's a super fun hobby, and I think it's really cool to do. I actually recently finished painting up a Horus Ascended that was given to me as a payment for doing a commission of Rabute Gilliman, and I'm pretty jazzed with how it turned out, because I based it off of a Abaddon that I started, that I did for a painting competition. And the Abaddon, I wanted to do in Sons of Horus green, even though he was supposed to be wearing, you know, just Aaron black. But I liked how it looked so much that I was like, no, I gotta do Horus this way too. So that's kind of what happened. Was the person who was paying me for the Gilliman commission saw the Abaddon and was like, man, I really want to, you're making me want to get you a Gilliman for payment for a future project. And I told him, you know, you haven't paid me for Gilliman yet, so why don't you just pay me with Horus? And that's how it worked out. And yeah, that is kind of the thing with this game, is like, you start collecting a few things, and then suddenly the next thing you know, you're collecting all the things. So I can definitely understand how and why you fell down the rabbit hole so quickly. It's almost unavoidable if you find yourself liking it at all. When I first started, I actually started collecting this stuff like 6 years ago, but I didn't actively start really getting into the painting and whatnot until about 4 years ago, I think it was. I used to teach at a high school, and a student was very interested in getting into Warhammer. And around the same time, one of my colleagues mentioned that he had friends who were into Warhammer, and they were interested in getting some of the stuff from like the starter kit that's given to schools. So we got the starter kit as if we were starting a Warhammer club, and sent a good amount of it over to his friend and kept some of the bits. and I painted my first Space Marine that way. Something like very badly, actually. And then I didn't think much of it, and then I started seeing like stuff for the Tau, and I was like, wow, the Tau are really cool. I like big guns and I like big mecha. And it wasn't actually until I started watching Astartes that I really got into this hobby. Between Astartes and If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device, I was completely bought in. Uh-oh, the camera froze. You're not really interested in the tabletop game, just like the painting side. Yeah, the tabletop game is fine for what it is, I guess, but it's really not my bread and butter either. One moment. My camera died, and I don't know why. Oh, it did die. Holy crap. Are you back? That's not the one I want. Oh, Camo Studio died. Yeah, I'll be right back. Camo Studio seems to have died, so we're gonna go ahead and stop that and start it back up. Yeah, I've tried playing the game, and I don't think it's bad. I just don't have the time to really get into it. You know what I mean? It's a lot of involvement and a lot of like buy-in in terms of time commitment. And I do enjoy kind of creating the armies and thinking about how they're going to be and all that kind of cool stuff, because I read a lot of the books. I know there's an error starting Camo Studio. Error can end, please. And so, unfortunately, the game doesn't play like the books. So, it's severely decreased my interest in the game. But I feel like, since I only mainly play with friends, I'll eventually find some compromise. Come on, find my phone. There's my phone. There's the camera. Bing, bing, bing. Let's see if it'll work. 3, 2, 1, pa! Aha, we're back. But yeah, I made the mistake of diving straight into the Horus Heresy instead of reading any of the other intro level books like a sane human being. And the Horus Heresy just took me in hook, line, and sinker. I really liked it a lot, and I ended up reading some 30-odd of the books before I finally started getting fatigued by them, and then I just started skipping around, and eventually made my way to the Siege of Terra. And that's kind of where I stopped. I read the Eisenhorn book. I read the Belisarius Call book. But beyond that, my reading of 40k has kind of fallen off. You've always been into / aware of Warhammer. You did briefly collect when you were like 12 years old in the 90s, so you always played the video games and been aware of the lore and wanted a cinematic universe, so you came back last year at 38 years old. Call it your midlife crisis. Yeah, you're only a little older than I am. I don't know. I don't feel like we need to attach those kind of labels to it. You finally had the time, the money, and like it all ended up, the stars aligned for you to get back into the game. You know what I mean? The game's doing really well. It's a lot more accessible. All that fun stuff. So I prefer to think about it that way. Everything just worked out. There's too much information for you to process, so you never tried to learn. That's been the biggest thing. And what's his name? Goobertown Hobbies did a great video that really summed up my frustration with the gameplay of 40k, where it really just feels like you're staring at your own dice pool and your own manual more than you are engaging with your friend or whoever you're playing against. And for some people, that's fine because they eventually get over that. But for a lot of people, or for some people, I'm not going to say a lot of people, that feels like I'm piling in against people who enjoy the game. But for some people, that's just overwhelming and they're not having fun. And I was happy when 10th edition kind of tried to streamline that a lot, but that's true. Time and money. I'm now 40. Your son is 19, so you're no longer a 24/7 parent. Exactly. You have the time and the finances to really invest yourself in the hobby. And like me and my wife, we haven't had a kid yet, so I have the time and the finances myself to be in the hobby. Though through a series of events, health related and whatnot, and a career change, The finances has kind of become a problem. So I'm definitely spending a lot less money on the hobby than I was. And to some extent, that's partially why I started streaming again. Not necessarily because I expect this to pay for the hobby, but like, I enjoy streaming, I enjoy chatting with people, and I kind of hope that it can be a way for me to talk with people about the game and to engage with it and the painting and potentially, you know, make a little bit of extra money on the side so that I can actually get back into collecting the hobby. But honestly, it also gives me an excuse to come down here and paint and get better at that skill, because I do have an aspiration of eventually going to one of these big events and winning a golden demon. Though, I think I'm so far removed from that possibility. Especially after seeing like how good they're getting. I don't know if you guys follow the golden demon stuff at all, but like, the actual entries for golden demon are becoming so mind-bogglingly good on so many levels that every time I feel like I'm starting to catch up skill-wise, I realize that the gulf has been made even bigger. And honestly, I'm okay with it. I just keep getting inspired by seeing how creative and how wonderful some people are at this painting stuff. And it just makes me want to do it more. And I think there's not a whole lot better for a hobby than constantly finding inspiration to keep wanting to do the hobby. And so that's kind of where my brain is. Wouldn't say I follow it as such, but I see the pics and it's way out of my league, but I'm more than happy with your stuff now. And that's also cool. You know, no one has to compare themselves to a Golden Demon finalist or a Golden Demon winner. That's not what I'm about. But for me, it's I also do martial arts and you know, that kind of stuff. And so I've always enjoyed seeing people perform and do things at incredibly high level and just kind of appreciating that skill set. And so like Golden Demon is a great opportunity to do that because you know, these guys are masters of their craft, and watching them be able to take these little toy soldiers and really turn them into works of art is something I think is super cool. And it's not just Warhammer either. There's so many painting competitions out there that all have their different foibles. And again, it's really neat seeing how they're able to take these hunks of resin and these hunks of plastic and whatever else they're made out of and just turn them into these little miniature sculptures of simulated life. At least that's where I get my fun from. Is really getting to take big chunks out of that in my brain. Also, I think I accidentally made his mouth look like the Joker's mouth from The Killing Joke. Not The Killing Joke, I don't remember the name of it. I don't follow DC Comics very much. But I also think I'm okay with it. Now, my question for you guys, my viewers, is should I keep the tongue blue? Okay, you have a good one too. Oh, cool, you guys know each other, awesome. Yeah, it's 2 a.m., so yeah, go to sleep. Have a good evening. For anyone else remaining, should I do anything with his tongue, or should I keep the tongue blue to keep this contrast? Because I think I like it. What do you guys think? Work with the tongue, keep it blue. Work with the tongue, keep it blue. Yeah, you like it? I like it. I think it matches. It does a good job of like really showing off in the mouth. So I think that turned out pretty okay. I think I want to paint parts of the mouth a little bit paler though. So I think I'm going to add some of this pale sand into this. What is this? I think this color is like rose brown or brown rose or something. I don't actually know. You've known Jace for a while now. He's a great painter. Awesome. Small world. I've been having a lot of that recently. Small world. I live in a city that is surrounded by nothing except for mountains. And so while it is technically a city, it's got like very small town vibes to it. And that keeps coming back because even though I stopped being a teacher last year, at my current job with the Geek Squad, I see a student like once a week. I see someone that I taught at least once a week. And now that I'm working with the city, I'm seeing some of the students that I taught near the beginning of my career getting jobs with the city. And I think that that's so bizarre because the last time I saw them, they were high schoolers, and now they're like fully developed adults who are doing adult things like getting jobs. And that really hit me today because I was in like a training session, and one of the people sitting in the training session with me was a young lady who was in my yearbook class like 6 years ago. And I just wasn't expecting to see her ever again. Because she wasn't like a great student or anything in my yearbook class. She was put in there because they didn't have anywhere else to place her. And while she was nice enough, it was just like, okay, you existed in my life for a while, and now you don't. So, goodbye. And then I promptly forgot about her. And then I saw her name in like the email list for people who were taking the course. And I went, wait a minute, that name looks familiar. And then I realized who it was, and it was just like, oh, so this is happening. Small world. And she's like the third former student that I've come across at the place I work at. Okay, that mouth is disgusting, and I kind of love it, so I think I'm going to keep it. And, I'm not sure what else I want to do with him. If I had any brains, I probably would have went ahead and waited. Oh yeah, no, I need to do the scales on his back. I think those are going to end up being like a blue-black, and I'm going to work my way up. But yeah, my goal was to try and get this guy done over 2 nights. And so I'm kind of glad that he's getting real close to done as it hits 9 o'clock my time. Because that means I'm on schedule. And so I'm going to go ahead and like do a decent job on the scales on his back. Trying to keep them that nice black, but make it look like really stand out, high contrast, all that fun stuff. But I'm gonna work on the orc rider, the orc boss, next week. So tonight might end up being a slightly early stream for me. Now let's see. I'm actually think I'm gonna go ahead and use my Pro Acryl stuff for this. Because I have a really good Pro Acryl black, which I like a lot. And I have a Pro Acryl, that's ivory. I have a Pro Acryl white that I can eventually build towards. And I still have this lovely scale 75 deep blue. So I think that's what's going to happen here. We're going to go ahead and rebase coat it in Pro Acryl black. And then we're going to work our way up with the blue and the white until I can get some really neat edge highlights. And for this, I'm probably going to take influence from how I see people do Tyrannid carapace all the time. So, let's see what we got here. And you can even see how much darker this is than the previous black because it doesn't have any of that white, you know, airbrush overspray on it. So hopefully, normally it takes 2 coats to get this stuff to look good because of just the consistency of Pro Acryl. But my hope is I'll be able to do it in 1 for this purpose. And right here I got to be careful because I really don't want to get it on the horns I've already painted. Okay. One of these days I'll learn more about camera placement. Now let's see, can I do this without causing a problem? Kind of the same thing, be careful around everything else I've worked on. There we go. Fantastic. So is Jace just someone you know online, or is that someone that you've met up with and like hung out with and you know, painted the Warhams that way? Because he did mention he's not super interested in playing the game. I was going to ask if you two game, But if he's not a gamer of the Warhammer, then clearly not. Okay, yeah, that's a much more solidly, uniformly black. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, next thing is going to be the dark blue. And honestly, if I had more time, I probably would do the entire thing in non-metallic metals just to try and make it have better contrast than what it's got now, because the metal is shiny, but it's this weird dull shiny that, once again, the NMM or the metallics really do that I'm not super fond of. Let's go ahead and mix this in pretty much all the way. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so this was Pro Acryl Black mixed in with Scale 75 Deep Blue. And so all I'm going to do is kind of not from the very, very bottom, but pretty darn close. I'm going to go ahead and hit it again with another coat, but this coat is going to have a little bit of that dark blue in it. So while it's not going to dress... No, I met him online. I would have met him in a community meetup at Warhammer World, but you were skint at the time. I'm assuming that means sick. Either sick or didn't have any money. Those are my two guesses. But yeah, there's now just going to be this subtle undertone of blue in this black. And that's kind of what I'm going for here, so that eventually, when I go back and I go over it with a lighter color of the blue, it'll blend better than trying to do a lighter gray blue against just a flat black. Okay. Skint, broke, no cash. Yeah, that's not a phrase we use in America. So thank you for clarifying. That's kind of what I figured, though. I realized that skint sounded weird for sick, so it had to mean something else. Okay. Now that I'm done kind of globbing this on, well, first I'm going to hit it with an air dryer because I'm tired of waiting for it. Between these tips. But after it all dries off, I'm going to start adding just a smidgen of white. And then using that smidgen of white, I'm going to start doing some slight highlights. And so again, if you're interested, Bolt Titanium White is just probably the best white out there. It's got great coverage, it's very bright, it's very pure. It's one of the main reasons why I switched over to Pro Acryl. The other is that, to be completely honest, getting the paint is cheaper. It comes in larger bottles, and they're all local, at least where I can get them from. So I really like Pro Acryl. Okay, let's see what we got here. We're going to go ahead and mix in some of the Pro Acryl Bolt Titanium White in with the already mixture I made of Pro Acryl Black and Scale 75 Deep Blue. And I'm going to try and get it as close as possible. And we're going to see if we can do a half-decent, you know, transition shadow on these scales, because I still want it to come across as looking like a black. I just want it to have a little bit more color than like a gray scale. So we're just kind of futzing around with this and hoping it turns out okay. Because this is, again, something I haven't done a whole lot of. So you guys are going to get to see me learn as I work on it. Now, something that I've seen, I watched a Falon Miniatures video recently, and something he talked about that he's picked up, which I think is a great idea, is this cross-hatching technique. And all it really is that instead of trying to make each layer perfect, is kind of doing a little bit of a scratchy cross-hatching of a darker layer onto a lighter, or a lighter layer onto a darker layer, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of what I'm going to experiment with here, is to see if I can get a decent looking highlight and more of a rough texture on what's supposed to be a more organic piece. And of course, if you've ever watched a full-on video, if you haven't watched a full-on video, I strongly suggest you do. I feel like his teaching style is incredible. But if this works right, we're going to see me start with what look to be some slightly discolored scratches. And eventually, as I continue building up the highlights, they will turn into, you know, layers and depth on the mini, which is kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah, I'm exceedingly jealous of the fact that you have Warhammer World close enough that you can just kind of go to it, you know, finances willing. The closest Warhammer store I have is, I think, a 4-hour drive away, and it's not a Warhammer World, it's just a standard Warhammer store, and therefore not really worth my time, because Warhammer stores are, you know, they're really meant for newbies trying to get into the game, which, cool for them because they're a great onboarding place, but I don't have anything as cool as like a Warhammer World to go to. I know they opened one in Japan, and actually one of my coworkers got to go to that one in Japan, and I'm insanely jealous because they ended up buying quite a few things there. And it's just like, man, I can't wait to do that kind of stuff. Because unfortunately, I'm in a position where that kind of money is just, that kind of trip and that kind of money is just way out of my reach. So hopefully I'll be able to eventually, and then I'll be able to go to Warhammer World and buy all sorts of neat shit, and I'll be able to report back with all sorts of cool new things to paint. Is there a Warhammer World in the States? There is not, and that's what sucks. There's one in Japan. Oh, is there? I think there might be one in Texas or California. I forget which. I don't know. I'm very tired, so I'm probably mixing things. But I know there's like a major Warhammer store over in Japan, and they just opened that one recently. And I don't remember if it's actually a Warhammer World or not. Someone who knows more than me or is more awake than I am can probably look it up. But I do know that I'm interested in going to one eventually. California sounds about right. Yeah, California gets everything. They get all the cool stuff and all the bad stuff. Okay, so I don't know how well it's showing up on camera, but I do have that initial layer, and now it's going to be time for me to kind of fry and massage and transition with a lighter color into a lighter layer on top of it. And again, this is primarily going to be a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of scratching, just to see. And again, this is purely me experimenting. I have no idea if this is going to look any good, but it's purely me just trying to, that actually looks way too light, to try and transition up to another highlight level from that initial dark gray blue. And I think that might work a little bit better. Everything is in the West Coast. Yeah, that's true. I mean, unfortunately, between the weather and just kind of like the investment that happened over there over the years, it really makes sense though, you know? Though it does tickle me that like Hollywood was founded because of people trying to escape the anti-Semitism that was so prominent in New York at the time. Which I didn't know until very recently. But that's part of the reason why it was allowed to grow so the way it was, because they were basically unrestricted from the kind of competition that would have just, you know, driven them completely out of business. Okay, I think this is turning out okay. I mean, if anything, it's not turning out bad. So there is that. And all I'm really doing right now is edge highlighting. So like I said before, the amount of coverage is going to decrease with every layer. And hopefully by the time I do the last layer, I'm basically doing nothing. except for hitting some key points that need to have like just a little bit brighter a pop on them, which is the whole point of that final highlight. Of all things, this actually reminds me of when I used to do drywall mud. I used to work with my father, who was a remodeling contractor, and one of the things I learned was that when you do drywall mud, you don't just want to slap it on there and try and get it as flat as possible on your first shot. Oh my goodness. Why phone? One moment, please. I will be right back. Okie dokie, sorry about that. I'm using my phone as a camera, and it just got a call, and it was really loud and obnoxious because it's held on a cradle, and that cradle was just buzzing to high heaven because I had the phone on vibrate. So I apologize for any noise that you guys might have heard. I'm not sure. Did you guys hear anything, or was that utterly silent on your end, other than me going into a mild panic? Because I legitimately have no clue. And honestly, that's probably something I should check when I rewatch the video, is, what time is it? 2:03? Is seeing what it sounds like when the phone actually rings. Okay, I can go lighter than that. Absolutely silent? Well, that's good, because it's very loud and disruptive on my end. So I'm just worried that you guys are getting absolute ear torture. So I'm glad to find out that's not the case. But yeah, because I work with the city now, I have it set up so I have alerts play on my phone in case, you know, I don't have to go to work. But what it's mainly used for, and very rightfully so, is for like missing persons alerts, that kind of stuff. So can't be too mad about that. Okay. I will say, with how well this all turned out, I'm now much more motivated and much more excited to paint the actual writer, because this is honestly turning out pretty darn good. And to be frank, this is kind of what this whole thing is for me. This channel is, it encourages me to go out of my comfort zone and paint things I normally wouldn't. The biggest Warhammer store is in Texas. That's what I figured. I remembered reading that it was over there somewhere, and I could never remember if it was completely on the West Coast or if it was just close. And for a second, I thought I was potentially mixing up the Warhammer store with In-N-Out, because I have a friend who was extremely obsessed with In-N-Out, and he knew that the closest one was in Texas, because that's the farthest their trucks could go before they would hit like that 24-hour mark, and they were really big on their delivery freshness and something. I don't know. I've still never had In-N-Out. Oh, there's a cafe. Yeah, Bugman's Cafe, right? That's the restaurant that they have in the Warhammer world. So yeah, I suppose I would have to go to Texas if I really wanted to go to Warhammer World, and honestly, I don't have a whole lot of interest in going to Texas. Do you know what city it's in? Is it in like Houston, or is it in San Antonio, or? Because I have some friends who are going to Texas over the holidays to visit their in-laws. Okay. Yeah, honestly, this isn't as bright as I was expecting, but I feel like it's not looking that bad. It's in Grapevine? I've never even heard of Grapevine. I mean, I'm assuming it's a decent-sized place or a fairly affluent one if it's housing a Warhammer store. Like, the big one, but I don't know. Okay, go ahead and get some of that in. Okay, so I feel like I'm probably doing my brush a disservice by using it this way, because I can already see that the tip is starting to degrade pretty badly, and I don't know if it's because of how I'm treating it right now. But for a $20 brush, I'd rather it not get destroyed. Okay, let's go ahead and add some more color to these spines, because again, this is all about just making this brighter, making these edges pop so that when you look at it, you get these, you know, this beautiful clarity on the model. Like a half hour out from Dallas. I'm gonna have to talk to my buddy and see if he's gonna be anywhere near there. Because I have no idea. I know that his fiance's mother is like extremely well-to-do and lives in one of the most affluent parts of Texas. And that's basically where they're going to visit. Like, she was so wealthy that her household made him uncomfortable, just like the sheer size and scope of it. And she had actually downsized from her previous home. So, you know, bully to her for that, but good lordy. Like, could you imagine going to a house and being in a house where just all of the furniture made you uncomfortable because you weren't sure whether you could sit in it? Because that's the kind of wealthy she is. Again, just trying to go a little bit brighter on less space, because you really don't want to take up the same amount of space. You're trying to concentrate that brightness to a point. And I'm still kind of learning that skill. And for the most part, on minis, I can do it okay, like on, especially with Space Marines and the armor, because I've had so much practice. But on something like this, where it's more of a monstrous creature, I'm definitely still kind of struggling. That's when the plastic comes out. I know, right? That's kind of what it feels like. But, like, to give you an example, the toilet that she has is probably worth... She probably paid more for the toilet in one of her bathrooms than he paid for a month's rent at his current living location. So, it's just like, how do you comfortably use the facilities when you know that the thing that you're about to use is worth more than the place you live? You know, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I could potentially go up even brighter, but I don't think I really want to. I think that actually turned out pretty okay. I might go back over it actually, you know what I can do? I think I'm gonna go back over it a little bit with some airbrush thinner and some paint, just to see if I can actually blend some of it back together. Does the toilet spurt gold? I know, right? That was my first thought. No, it's one of those ones that, like, talks to you and is temperature controlled and just does all the things. And it's just like, again, how would you feel comfortable using that? Because I know for a fact I would not. I'd just hold it in and drive to a restaurant or something and go there. But yeah, my understanding is that his fiance's father used to be like a professional pool player. And he unfortunately died of cancer many years ago. And he left, obviously, all of his inheritance to his wife. And he'd go to Taco Bell and destroy that. He'd go to Taco Bell and absolutely destroy her toilet. Yeah, she kind of deserves it. She's not a nice lady. But yeah, she kind of inherited all of that money. And then, on top of that, she also is into Broadway and knows people in Broadway because of the work she used to do. So she's very bohemian and very wealthy, and extremely conservative. So there's a lot of mixed feelings going into that. Okay. And so all I really did just now was take some airbrush thinner and mix it in with the black blue that I already made, and I just kind of ran it over the model to kind of blend all the colors together, or not over the model, but you know, over the scales, to just kind of blend all of those colors together, because I don't want to cover them entirely, and I don't want to completely kill the highlight, but I don't want the highlights to feel like they're separate and distinct from each other. And so hopefully that did a half decent job of that without being overwhelming. And unfortunately for me, I think that's where I'm going to call it, because the squig is done. She's got that Tomo Arigato Mr. Roboto toilet, exactly. And again, to give you an idea, my friend, the one who's marrying this lady's daughter, he was raised in a double-wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere by two, like, hardcore self-sustaining libertarian parents. So his family grew up incredibly poor and kind of making do with what they had. And so he's not used to that kind of display of wealth. He's never been around it before. Well, actually, I take that back. He's been around it once. And Red, he'll make you proud. He actually did blow up that rich person's toilet and flooded their basement. And that guy also deserved it. So he got to straight up destroy the richest person in our city's basement toilet, and I think that's hilarious. And it was because he knew the guy's son and was hanging out with him late one night, and they all got drunk and they all ate a lot of Chinese food, and his body did not like it. Okay, went ahead and cleaned off my brush. So yeah, he's embarrassed by that story. I think it's the funniest thing in the world, and I remind him of it all the time. Because yeah, the guy is so wealthy, he's basically got a castle on the side of a mountain. So knowing that he went into that castle and ruined his basement is very funny to me. Okay, that being said, I'm cleaning up right now. I'm doing the whole clean off my brushes, get as much of the paint out of the ferrule as possible, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with the progress I made tonight. I wasn't expecting for this to turn out how it did. I like the colors. I like how the colors turned out, and I'm going to like it even more because I'm going to paint him as a fairly traditional orc. Like, I think I'm actually going to make his saddle more ivory, so it's going to end up being more of a white. But he's going to get, like, you know, brown pants and good orky skin. But yeah, I'm really liking how this thing turned out. Hopefully that was in some ways entertaining for you guys. Yeah. Let's see, Orktober doesn't really end until next Thursday, so I've got plenty of time to get him finished next week. And I'm pretty sure with all of this done, I will have plenty of time to get the rest of him done, because again, this is not going to be like a competition-worthy project. This is more just something fun to do to celebrate October. And I'll probably get the base done off stream, depending on how things go. Or I might work on it a bit over the weekend. I do have Sunday off, so I might stream then. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Let's see if we've got anyone we can raid, because that's always fun. It looks like the Dungeon Lounge is up. What are they doing? Oh, they're playing a game. They're playing Alan Wake 2. Let's see if there's someone Warhammer related that we can stream. Or not Warhammer, but mini painting related. Miniatures and models. Let's see, we've got Studio, we've got Breakdown. Let's see. Useless Wizard. Lethal Shadows. Anyone fun? Guild Rush. Vimes VTuber. Okay, I'm choosing them simply because they have the name Vimes. And oh, they're doing a gun. Oh, they're doing a twin Mustang. Now let's see. Let's see if we can find some Warhammer related. Lair of the Beast box for the English Warhammer. Okay. I don't even know what that is. It looks neat though. Ooh, someone's painting Mass Effect board game minis. Yeah, let's. I'm sorry, I'm being indecisive, guys. Actually, you know what? Nah, let's go ahead and do Dungeon Lounge. You guys get to see some Alan Wake. /raid the Dungeon Lounge. Okay, guys. Once again, thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And I will see you later, potentially Sunday, potentially next Tuesday. Bye-bye.